Thank you all for joining us this evening on Facebook Live. My name's Anita. I've been at NRAS for nearly a year now, and I work in the marketing team. I was actually familiar with NRAS before I joined because I was diagnosed with RA 6 years ago. And at that time, I found that NRAS really helped me kind of deal with my new life with RA, mainly through publications, which I found really useful because they taught me a lot about RA and how to deal with all the change in my life. So I was diagnosed when I was 21, right after graduating from university. So I've kind of spent my whole adult life so far living with it. Today, I'm really pleased to be joined by my fellow members of the NRAS Young Voices group. So the NRAS Young Voices group is a fairly newly formed advisory group that was formed to develop the NRAS JIA services. And it's made up of young people with lived experience of JIA and RA. We aim to act as a voice for the JIA and young RA community. So now I'd like to give them the opportunity to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Annabelle. I'm 24. I was diagnosed with JIA when I was 10 years old, so I've lived as kind of a child, a young person, and now an adult with arthritis. I currently live in London and I work as a fashion model after graduating from the University of Bristol. And I work for companies like Next, H&M and Tommy Hilfiger. So yeah.
Hi, I'm Eleanor. I'm 26 years old. I just turned 26 in August, so I think I'm probably the oldest here. I was diagnosed with arthritis when I was 19. I was a student at Leeds University at the time, so I did my degree alongside chronic pain and a new diagnosis. I'm currently in remission, which is fantastic. And I'm proud to say that I'm now the owner of Stretton Studios, which is a photography studio in Cheshire.
Hi, I'm Malachi. I'm 16. I've just started A-levels at sixth form in Coventry, studying media, photography and music. I was diagnosed just over 2 years ago with uveitis. So it's an inflammation that is from the eye. Currently on obviously lots of medication, and yeah.
I'm Katrina, I'm 25 and I'm a doctor working in Manchester. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis when I was 19, so towards the second year of university. So kind of similar to what you said, Denise, like it feels like, you know, it's kind of just been there just for my adult life. Had a bit of a bumpy ride in the meantime with various medications and side effects, but now kind of somewhat semi-stable. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks all for introducing yourselves. There are a few members missing today who couldn't be here, but thank you all for agreeing to do this with me. We do have the advantage of in our group having various ages and also diverse backgrounds, which I think is really important. So also to anyone who's watching, if you've got any questions at all for us, feel free to send them in the comments and my colleague Shivan will send them over to us. Our discussion today will be around a couple of different topics. So we've got mental and physical well-being, social life and employment as a young person with chronic illness. As you all know, this year's RA Awareness Week is focused on mental and physical well-being. And we all obviously know having a chronic condition can massively impact mental, physical and emotional well-being. It's something I've personally struggled with, so I'm really interested to know what other people's experiences are and what everyone does to cope, really. So my mental health and well-being took kind of a massive dive when I first got diagnosed. It was partly because I was in such an important stage of my life. I was going from kind of being dependent on my parents and at uni to finding a full-time job and kind of finding my identity and deciding what career path to go on. So I think that kind of made it so much worse to deal with everything. So I just wanted to ask everyone how, starting with Annabelle, how much do you kind of struggle with your mental and physical well-being in that aspect of your GIA?
I think because I've had arthritis for like nearly as long as I can remember, it's hard to kind of differentiate and know what it would be like before. But I've definitely learned to cope and have a lot of like strategies. And I think it's all about knowing yourself and knowing what you can do. So I find that, you know, if I'm like having a particularly bad day, I know the things and the people that will cheer me up and will help me with my mental health. So yeah.
That's really good. Have you got any kind of specific things you do to cope? Like you've got kind of a self-care routine? Or...
Yeah, I think it depends. If like mentally I'm feeling bad, then I have things that I know like I love doing at home. Or no, if mentally I'm feeling bad, there are things I can do outside of home. So like I like to go swimming and things, which is really like good on the joints, but also I find it's like very calming. But if like physically I'm having a bad day, then there are things that I like to do at home. So I like to like bake or read a book or just kind of hang out with my housemates because they're very understanding, and I find that having people around me who kind of understand and know me really well, I think that that's really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's nice that you've got kind of things you can do in different scenarios.
Yeah, definitely. I think that helps working out your kind of your own strategy for everything.
Yeah. How about you, Eleanor?
So like I said, when I introduced myself, I'm currently in remission with that. My mental health is obviously loads better than it was. When I was diagnosed, obviously when you go away to uni, you build up this picture in your head about how it's going to be parties and friends and out late at night, etc. And my uni experience couldn't have been more different. So I was very unfortunate that as arthritis is a spectrum, I was the complete end of the spectrum where it's pretty much as severe as you can get. I had a hip replacement within 1 or 2 years of having arthritis because my joints were destroyed, and mentally I couldn't cope with going from being a healthy, I'll use the word normal person, to being disabled, and it happened so fast. It was in a matter of weeks. I got really sick with so-called freshers flu, and then after it started my arthritis, and I really struggled with the transition between living a healthy life and having my life snatched away from me. So I was very lucky that I had really good supportive housemates, and they used to do things for me like baking. So we set up a baking Instagram account, and like whilst most people our age were posting like night out photos, we put what we'd been making in the kitchen on there instead. So when it came to uni, when I was at my worst, then definitely having solid, good, amazing, understanding friends is what really made a difference and helped.
Yeah, I can't imagine kind of being at uni, being somewhere completely new and going through all that. That's literally amazing. And Katrina, you said as well that it was in your second year when you got diagnosed. So
because medicine's 5 years as well. So I think I had like 3 years there, and I'm sure like you were the same, Melanie, like away from your parents who normally just like, you know, want to like scoop you up and go to appointments with you, and they weren't there to go to appointments with me. And you know, normally you kind of have that support network, and you do feel a little bit like everyone else is like, you know, like young and fun and normal, like you say, and you're the person that's like, I couldn't drink on certain days because of my medication, so it affected it that way. You know, I had like, you know, side effects. I'd be in bed. So I think I didn't actually think it was like affecting my mental health at the time, but I think looking back, I think I actually probably wasn't coping with it particularly well. But I had supportive friends as well who were super understanding. And towards the end of my years, I lived with other like medical students who obviously had like a bit more insight into things, and were able to have like a bit more like, you know, empathy and understanding about it.
Yeah, I think it really helps kind of having a good support network. But Ellie, just going back to you, is this something you kind of still struggle with? And are there any kind of things you do to make sure you don't get to kind of that place again?
I'm better now with recognizing it. Like when I can sort of feel my mental health sliding, and I haven't had sort of joint problem. Well, I had some joint problems in lockdown, actually, having said that. But yeah, I've honestly found that socializing is the best thing to do, even though at the time you really don't feel like being around anyone. It's even if you don't feel like doing it, making yourself get out there and do something, even if it's just, yeah, like I said, baking a cake, it makes a world of difference to your mental health.
Yeah. And how about you, Malachi? Is it something, obviously you're a lot younger than us and you've kind of had a different experience?
Yeah, so obviously I was diagnosed a couple of years ago, so not as bad as obviously Eleanor with university or Katerina with university, but I guess I was still going through it during like my GCSE preparation stage, and I think I struggled a lot with like exam stress as well as adding on to the mental health that was affected by the medication and stuff like that. But
Is there anything you do kind of to help that? Do you kind of talk to your friends a lot about it?
Yeah, I have like two really close friends who are like really understanding. Like, obviously we'll plan to do things, but if I'm not always feeling up to it, like they'll understand and they'll be like, oh, we can just like come over instead and we can just chill, maybe watch a couple of films. And I think having that like social life, as best as you can, it really helps with you mentally, and having friends that understand and who will always be there for you if you do need them, really helped me out.
Yeah, and that kind of goes into kind of our next topic of kind of how we deal with social life. Having chronic illness can massively impact that, especially as a young person, because we're kind of finding our identity, finding our friends. You know, for me, there could be days where I'm absolutely fine, and then the next day I just could not do anything, and sometimes my friends just didn't understand that, and maybe that was kind of more on me. I didn't want to explain it to them because maybe I didn't know how. But I don't know, do you find it difficult to deal with kind of a busy social life, or do you kind of, you know, stick to not having such a busy social life?
I think when I was younger, I found it a lot more difficult. I think when my arthritis was worse, I used to come home from school and just like nap on the sofa. And at weekends, like I'd be completely just tired out. And that's quite difficult because I found when I was younger, like you say, I didn't really have the language to talk about it and kind of thought that it was just, I don't know, something that happened and that other people didn't necessarily need to know about. But I think as I've gotten older and I'm maybe a bit more like sure of myself and have some really good friends, that I have maybe like a busier social life and know that if I need to dip out or, you know, suddenly cancel, that people won't mind. And like Malachi said, maybe if it's just a few people, they'd make other arrangements. And so like I could still go if I was tired, or yeah, they're just understanding if I couldn't necessarily make it.
Yeah, how about you, Ellie? Is it kind of, I know you were talking about going out at uni and partying, and then suddenly your life changed. So that aspect of your social life, do you think you've, you know, started to do more stuff now, or do you think you just can't cope?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was a student, obviously aside the sort of pain and fatigue, I struggled as well with medication side effects. They gave me sort of drug-induced anxiety. So I was convinced everyone hated me, which stopped me making friends with new people, because whenever I went into a new situation, I was like, they don't like me, they don't like me. So that was a huge barrier. But having said that, now that I've sort of had my second chance of life, and I've responded well to treatment, I'm sort of making up for lost time now. So I used to spend a lot of time wishing I could redo my uni days, because I feel like they weren't how I wanted them to be. But obviously you can't rewind the time and do things differently. So it's just about making the future, or the present, I should say, count.
Yeah, I definitely say like having RA, it makes you appreciate what you have, like makes you appreciate your good days. So you do want to enjoy them. Yeah. And Malachi, obviously you're a lot younger than us. And you did say that your friends are quite supportive. And how do you find kind of dealing with social situations?
Um, I guess when I think of like a social life, I think of like being a bit older, going out every night, having parties with friends and stuff. So I don't really have that kind of life. Like I don't, it's a bit sad to say, but I don't have many friends. Like I have like two close friends who I'll do like everything with. And because obviously we're so close, they're so understanding of everything that I have to go through. Um, so I think I'm quite lucky and privileged to have the friends that I do. And I think it's also not just necessarily friends, but also just sometimes people. Like sometimes I'd wake up and not feel like going to school just because I wasn't feeling great that day. But you know, by the time you get to school, the time you're with other people, the time you're with friends and stuff, um, it automatically makes me feel better. So I think in terms of a social life, I think trying to have one, like even if it's not super busy, should like will really help you mentally out.
Yeah, does it ever kind of make you feel nervous for the future? Because like you said, when obviously you get a bit older, then you start going out a bit more. Is that something you get
Um,
about?
yeah, I guess a little bit, obviously, because that includes meeting new people and probably having to explain to them what I go through and stuff. So I'm a bit nervous about that, obviously, but I think we'll just see when it comes to it.
Yeah, you'll be good because as you said, you've got good friends around you. So,
Yeah.
as long as you've got that and a good support system. And Katrina, you're the doctor, so I don't know how much time you'll have for a social life.
There's always time. Yeah, I think there were probably times when I probably should have taken a step back. I think from socializing like at uni, there was like I can think of like periods where actually my symptoms were really bad, but I would just like kind of push through the like fatigue and the pain and just like still try and like push that social life. And I think I've kind of got a little bit better at now that I'm older. And again, I think like if you say like Annabelle saying like when you feel a little bit more like assured of yourself and a little bit more like kind of less impacted by maybe those like external kind of influences, that I am more able to be like, you know what, I've just been in pain all day, I'm exhausted, like I can turn down things. And I don't think I always will say to people like, oh, actually it's a bit of a bad joint day, but my friends kind of will just know if I'm like, I just want to be on the couch this evening. And I don't necessarily always like, because you don't want to constantly like reminding yourself and everybody else that's what it is. But I think I'm a little bit better at kind of balancing it like that. But yeah, I completely agree with what everyone said. Like, I think that it's hard because sometimes I think you just need to give yourself a break if you think you need one. Like if you want a day on the sofa, have a day on the sofa. But if you have 3 weeks on the sofa, when actually sometimes if you can just go on a walk with your mates, you just do feel better. So I think it's that balance of like giving yourself a rest, but actually remembering that sometimes those interactions are what like help your mental health, which then just they do make you feel better. So I think, and friends that will come to you, they're good friends because that massively
and who bring food.
Yeah, the big as well.
We've got a couple of questions. So there's a question from Katie Puris. Hi, Katie. I can't imagine being diagnosed at a young age. I think you're all fabulous doing this. How did you speak to friends about your diagnosis? Appreciate some of you were very young. I guess I'll go first. I can't remember too much, to be honest. I think I didn't tell them too much about it. And even if I did, they either didn't understand or I didn't explain it properly, because I think I was just in that place where I was still trying to understand it myself. It took, I think, a good couple of years for them to actually realize how serious it was and that it's a chronic illness. I'm never going to be the way I was before. So it is difficult. I had a not so pleasant experience with one of my friends where she and it wasn't coming from a bad place, but she made a comment about, why can't you do this? What makes you so tired or something like that. And it just, completely broke my trust in her, which could have been avoided if I kind of, spoke to her and actually explained it a little bit more. But I know, Annabelle, you've kind of had it your whole life. So how about like meeting new friends? How do you go about kind of communicating that with them?
I think, like you say, when I was initially diagnosed, obviously I was quite young, so I think my mum just kind of did the telling the school and telling people. And then I think as I got older, it's like you say, understanding that it's a chronic illness. So I think I could kind of make my friends understand that like my hands hurt because that's where I have like swollen joints, but actually that it's a chronic illness that really does affect your whole body. And that even though you might not have like a swollen joint everywhere, you still are like really tired and fatigued. But I think, yeah, a lot of my friends knew like throughout secondary school, and they were really supportive. And then when I got to university, I think, I mean, I don't really remember, but I don't think I initially obviously just went out and told everyone, but kind of a month or so in, when I'd formed like a few really close friendships, I was able to like tell my friends, because as well, when I went to university, I was in a block for people that had like additional needs, because I needed to have a fridge to store my medication in, because obviously it wasn't safe to have it in like a communal fridge. And so some people did wonder like why I was in that block, because obviously it is like an kind of invisible illness. I mean, you can see that my hands are swollen, but not like, it's not that obvious. And so I'd have to explain that sometimes, which I found a bit difficult. But yeah, I think generally people are understanding, and I think now I can really express to people that I have arthritis. It's like active in my hands, but I have it in my whole body, and like it makes me tired and like fatigued. And I think that's something good to get across to people that maybe they wouldn't always realize.
Yeah, and Ellie, you were saying that your uni friends were quite good and they were very supportive.
Yeah, so like Malachi, with my two friends, I had two housemates when it sort of my arthritis was at its worst. So they went through the sort of whole journey with me. But my best friends back home, I mean, like, we've been friends since we were like kids, but I remember when I was home from uni for the holidays, they had arranged to go to the cinema with me, and my parents were out and they knocked on the door, and I couldn't answer because I was in too much pain to dress myself and move. And so I called them, like, I was in my bedroom, they were outside the front door, and I called them in tears saying, I need help, I can't dress myself. And I sort of hobbled down the stairs to open the door and just burst into hysterics. And I remember seeing the colour just drain from their face. And I think that was when they realised like how bad I actually was, because my friends from home hadn't really seen me like this before. But yeah, they were great. Like, all my friends are great. I can't fault any of them. They're all really good.
That's really good to hear. And Malachi, you were obviously saying your friends are kind of like your main support. And yeah.
Yeah, and then like telling people like Annabelle with being in a different block through the mock exams we were sitting. I was sitting on, not in the main exam hall, but in a smaller classroom. And then people obviously asking me like, oh, why are you in that room for? And obviously then that I had to explain then, because of I have uveitis, is invisible, like totally. No one can see it from the outside, but people, I guess, may have ideas, because I missed obviously a lot of school, so people are asking then as well. So just having to tell people like that, it's not too much of a big deal. Like, a lot of my friends are very understanding, so I'm not too worried about telling people I know. But I guess, as we said earlier, like meeting new friends and how might be the best way to tell them. But yeah.
We've got a question from Abby from Facebook. She said, when did you tell your friends? My daughter Poppy doesn't really want to tell anyone. She's 9, diagnosed age 4. It's really difficult, isn't it? I don't know. I guess, Annabelle, you've got kind of the closest experience to that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is, if you don't want to tell anyone, you don't have to, because it's your illness and you can deal with it however you like. And I think for a long time, like, my close friends knew, but like I don't think a lot of people in my school knew, because I didn't like want that to be kind of defining of who I was. And so like my mum used to ask me if I wanted to join any support groups and chat with other people, but really like I didn't want to, because I didn't want that to be like the biggest part of my life growing up. So I think it's completely up to like your daughter and completely up to you on kind of how you want to approach it. And maybe, you know, if she has a few close friends that come around a lot or that she wants to tell, then that would be the best way to do it. But I think, yeah, maybe as she gets older, she'd feel more comfortable telling more people and the people who matter. And I think definitely giving her the language to understand like how to discuss the fact that she has arthritis, and that, yeah, you know, people say it's an old person disease. It's really not. We all have it, and we're definitely not old. So yeah, I think whenever she wants and however she feels comfortable, that's the most important thing, really.
I've got another question for you from Becca O'Driscoll. She said, "Did you feel alone if you didn't know anyone your age who had it? My name is Alice, and I'm 12, and I was diagnosed when I was 10."
Is that for me to answer? Yeah. I didn't really feel alone, because I think I had, you know, my family was so supportive, and the friends that I did tell were really supportive, and I never felt that I needed to know anyone who was my age that did have it, because I don't know, to be quite honest, I wasn't sure what that was going to give me, apart from just being like, oh, I'm like in a lot of pain. I didn't want to kind of dwell on it, I think, when I was younger. So I think it depends. There are lots of support groups out there. I think if you did want to get in contact with people and have someone to talk to, because, you know, that might help you, because people, I think, deal with things really differently. So yeah, if it's something you want to look into, definitely do, because I know there are great places, but that just wasn't something that at that time I was interested in.
Sorry, I've got sensor lights and they think I'm not here because I haven't been moving. Okay, right, so I think we'll move on to the next topic for now, and I'll go back to questions a little bit later. So I think the next topic is kind of discussing the issues we might face when trying to find a job and just employment in general. Oh gosh, sorry. Stay on. This is smart lights. We've got everything smart in our flat. Yeah, sometimes.
Not very smart.
Yeah, exactly. We've got like 5 Google phones. Anyway, yeah, this is employment. There's something I've really struggled with. I've kind of had to change my career aspirations to something that would suit me more, and kind of thinking about my bad days and what could work for me. And avoiding jobs that require kind of lots of time standing and long hours. So Annabelle, you work as a model, so is that quite demanding? I can imagine some days are just so fast paced.
Yeah, it's a pretty, I think, atypical job. So I think one of the good things for me is that it's very flexible. So although some days will be really demanding, and like even if I have to work, you know, on my feet for the whole week, I know that because I'm self-employed, I can then book time off, or like on my bad days, I can have time off and kind of rest and recuperate. And I think the thing that helps me most at work is like being quite honest and knowing that like there are things I can't do. So I can't model like rings and jewelry because I have like swollen fingers. But I'm just always really upfront and honest with people at work about that. And I think, you know, at lunch, sitting down and like taking the weight off your feet is really helpful. So I think for me at work, it's all about like knowing what I can and can't do, and just being open with the people who I'm working with that day or that week. But yeah, it's a bit crazy because, well, obviously pre-COVID, I just used to travel abroad and travel internationally a lot, which is quite demanding. But luckily, I sort of was able to manage my schedule and give myself time off as well.
Have you kind of faced any discrimination at work? I don't know what the industry is like. Are they kind of a lot more accepting than, you know, the stereotype?
I mean, I haven't faced any discrimination, that's for sure. Sometimes I definitely have to remind the people that I work with quite a lot because they don't always forget, and I do get the classic comments of people saying, oh, you're so young, you have arthritis. Oh, my grandma has that. Oh, why didn't you try drinking celery juice every day? Because that cured my neighbor's arthritis. Which, I mean, I think you just have to brush off, and I find it kind of funny now. So I guess that helps. That's how I deal with it. I remember one occasion where I was doing a job and they like wanted me to hold this bag like with my, it was like a clutch bag with my hands, but the bag was really big and it was really heavy and it was for like a runway show, and I just knew that I was gonna like drop this bag like halfway down the runway. And I was like, look, like I just can't do this. And so actually they cut a hole in the back of it. It was like a really expensive designer bag, and they cut a hole in the back of it so I could hold it with my thumb. So that was pretty understanding of them to ruin like a, I don't know, £1,000 bag.
That's actually such a funny story. I know, Ellie, you're a photographer. I would say that's quite a demanding job, because I actually studied photography and I worked in a studio for a couple of years, and at that time my RA wasn't that settled, so I just kind of decided to, you know, try something else. But you still do it, which is quite amazing.
Yeah, so when my arthritis was kind of at its worst, I did a year in industries, took a year out of uni and worked at a photography studio, and I really struggled. I'm not going to say it was easy, but I just wanted it so bad because that's all I want to do. I just want to take photos. And so somehow I pushed through, but there is a comment that stuck with me, which I remember being told, and I literally locked myself in the toilet and cried, which was I was told by the photographer that I should consider other options because I was never going to be a photographer with my condition. So I cried. Then I put one of those empowering Instagram posts up, like one of those when someone says you can't do it, you show them who's boss, kind of just kind of psych myself up. And yeah, here I am. I own my own business. So you can do it. You've just got to have the grit.
Yeah, that's quite amazing. I think I was kind of too cautious almost, because I'm just like, I get so anxious about my future, especially now with RA. I just find myself constantly thinking about, you know, what's going to happen and do I have like a contingency plan? But yeah, I really admire your mindset in that, and you know, just go for it, because yeah, we should all be thinking like that a little bit more, because you know, what do you have to lose, kind of.
I think in my head I'd almost accept the fact I was probably going to be in pain for the rest of my life. So I was like, I can either be in pain for the rest of my life doing a job that I don't like, or I can be in pain for the rest of my life doing something I love. And yeah, thankfully it just ended up for the best. I'm not in pain right now.
It's amazing. You will have to excuse me for a second. I'm going to open the blinds. Hopefully that's a little bit better. Yeah, I don't look so terrible anymore. Sorry, loads of lighting issues. So Malachi, you've I remember you telling me you've done work experience before, but is it something you think about, kind of you know, your jobs in the future and what potentially could happen with your condition, or are you just not worried and kind of just going with it?
Well, I was fairly worried when I was first diagnosed because from a young age I always used to want to be in the armed forces. I used to want to be in the Marines and be in their marching band because I used to play the trumpet. And that was something I really wanted to do. But obviously they can be quite strict, the armed forces, on conditions and stuff like that. And then I decided not to be in the Marines and wanted to be in the RAF. But obviously eyesight can be quite a big deal for flying a plane. But I just started studying photography for A levels, and I quite like the idea of being a photographer in the RAF. Either like traveling around the world, just taking photos for the RAF, which I think is pretty cool. But obviously there's going to be requirements for certain jobs, so I'm a little bit worried about that. But I love music, so I think music would be a nice little backup plan for me to have. Well, that's me personally. But I think if you've got maybe a dream job, if you are young and you've been diagnosed, research into it and just check requirements, because I know there's always going to be a few. And if not, just make sure you always have a backup plan, I guess.
Yeah, but again, going back to Ellie, what you just did, you know, you went for it and you went in with a positive mindset. But obviously, if it's a job that has certain requirements, it is really difficult. Yeah, that's quite amazing that you've got kind of another passion, because I know you're in a choir as well, aren't you? How about you, Katrina? You've probably got one of the most demanding jobs out of all of us.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all relative, but yeah, I actually, similar to Malachi, I was always quite keen on being an army doctor, which is an absolute no-go with, well, it's even, I think it's a no-go with controlled RA, but definitely not with uncontrolled RA. So I guess it's kind of similar to what Ellie said, like, it's a really demanding job. It's not really the best job to do when you're in pain, when you've got like so-called like rheumatoid fog and you're tired and you're doing night shifts and all those sorts of things. But I just kind of, again, really similar like mindset I came to, like, if I'm going to be in pain and tired, I might as well be in pain and tired doing what I actually like want to do. Like me doing a less demanding job, like it might make the symptoms a bit better. I might be a little bit less tired, a little bit less in pain, but it would be, you know, it would be relatively worse because I wouldn't be doing kind of what I wanted. I do like to, there's a lot of procedures I do in my job. I have to put lines in people. That can sometimes be difficult with like pain in my hands. I'm quite lucky because most of my symptoms now are in like my knees and my feet, so it's a little bit easier with procedures. But if I'm in theatre, for example, like holding the same piece of skin back for 6 hours, that can be a little bit difficult. So I've encountered like multiple problems, but what I would say is like, unless some things like really got, you know, like I can't join the army, like that's, you know, I just have to accept that. But if unless you really, really can't do something, you should just keep going towards it. And if you get to a point where, you know, if it's a reasonable possibility that if my disease comes back in my hands and it, you know, changes what sort of doctor I can be, or then I think it's more of a cross that bridge when you get to it. Don't assume you can't do anything until you know you can't do it. But I feel like things that people don't think about is things like you need like vaccinations to be a doctor or a nurse, and some vaccinations you can't have on immune suppressing medication. Jobs that have long exams, like sitting for, like my exams are 3 hours, so I need like special time to like stand up and stretch because I just couldn't sit for 3 hours. So it kind of, there's those little things as well which you don't necessarily always think about. But I think you can do anything. Sometimes it's miserable, but you might as well have miserable days to having like a happy general life than like a less happy life but with less miserable days. That's how I like to see it anyway.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So at the moment, I work full-time for NRAS, but I'm also doing a part-time master's. So you can imagine that's like late night, evenings, and, you know, with RA being as unpredictable as it is, it does get very difficult, but they are very good and they've kind of given me allowances, which, you know, I could not cope without. So yeah, I think in terms of that, there are sometimes things that help. So there's this question from Molly who said, I've just started my 3rd year of nursing in uni. I'm 20 and was diagnosed in June, so still finding it difficult. Does it get easier once medication starts to work? So I'll kind of open that up if anyone wants to respond.
Well, I would say definitely like there's everyone has like a different journey with like the tablets they're on, and some people like find what works them straight away, some people don't, some people it's like longer, but there's loads of options for you, and you'll be able to work with your like rheumatologist to like go through things. And what you'll do is you'll find that if your symptoms get better on the tablets, but you'll also you'll be better at dealing with it, like mentally. You'll have your coping mechanisms. It won't feel as like new and scary, and it will just become your new normal. So I think you get better at dealing with it yourself, and then also like, you know, hopefully, you know, there's like so many new like drugs coming through, and you just have to find it. I'm still not in remission, but my disease like got worse for a while on, even despite quite heavy like immunosuppression, and I had this kind of similar feeling to you, like I was at uni, and nursing is like super, like they're the ultimate hard workers. But you know, and I felt the same, like, is this going to get, you know, like just getting worse, and I've got these side effects, this is just awful. But now I look back and I'm like, gosh, yeah, that was bad, but I got through it, so it definitely will get better.
Yeah, also I think you kind of over the years you learn how to cope with things better, and you kind of put all of these things in place where, yes, you think, okay, I'm having a bad flare day, I'm going to do this. So it does kind of sometimes become like routine. So that really helps. I'm going to just read some more comments. We've got Victoria said, I think this is for Ellie and Malachi, you don't need a lot of friends, just a few great ones, which, yeah, I agree with. I've got kind of 2 groups of really close friends. Kelly says, well done to you all for coming on and speaking tonight. Are you all in remission? If so, what medications have worked for you, and what does remission look like for you on an individual basis? So for me, I am in remission and have been for about 4 years, but my RA is still there. I had my last flare was over the weekend, and it was on my shoulder, and it literally just stopped yesterday. I think it's more brought on by stress for me, and not sleeping well. It's been a very stressful week and busy week. So I think sometimes that triggers it for me. So yeah, I do have flares, but they're nowhere near as bad as what it was like before remission and when I first got diagnosed, and they are a lot shorter. And again, as I was saying before, I've got kind of coping mechanisms that I use to deal with them on certain days, and, you know, just make sure that the people around me know what I'm going through. I think that's really helpful. Yeah, anyone else?
Which has put me into remission, but I have been on pretty much everything. So yeah, if anyone does want to ask me any like questions personally, then you can find me on Instagram and pop them over, because I've tried most medications, to be honest.
Oh, I didn't say what medication I was on. So I'm just on hydroxychloroquine at the moment, which is really good. I used to be on methotrexate, which I recently stopped, it did work for me in terms of my disease, but in terms of the side effects it was giving me, it was kind of just almost not worth taking it. But yeah, my RA has calmed down a lot, so I'm quite lucky in that sense, and I'm really grateful, because I don't know what I'd do if I had to go back to taking methotrexate.
Yeah, I used to take methotrexate as well when I was younger, and I agree the side effects for me were just horrendous. And I've taken a couple other things since then, but at the moment I'm on baricitinib, because I used to be on an injectable, but because of my job it made it impossible to travel, because I sometimes have to travel like with a day's notice, and so obviously you can't take syringes on a plane with a day's notice. So yeah, that I find it is working quite well at me for the moment. I'm not in remission, but I don't have too many flares. I just have kind of a very like medium low level of active inflammation at the moment.
Yeah. How about you, Malachi?
Yeah, I'm not in remission. I'm still taking methotrexate. I started on methotrexate. Didn't do too well on it, and then they changed me to a different type of injection of methotrexate, and ran that alongside Humira. So I'm on methotrexate once a week, which is an injection, and then Humira once a fortnight, which is also injection. So yeah, it's all right. It's not the best, as you both know from experience, that methotrexate is not pleasant, but it's doing the job medically. So I guess I can't complain about that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a balance, isn't it? What would you rather prefer, your disease getting worse or you feeling bad for a little while? So yeah, how about you, Katrina?
I started on like a tablet methotrexate, which we didn't get on at all, and then I had injectable methotrexate, but that it just didn't really touch me. And then I've had I take adalimumab now, and I had another injectable biologic before that. So we're still kind of trying different things. Not in remission, but like miles better than, because I had it in my hands, like with kind of I was diagnosed with it in my feet, and then it came in my hands while I was on methotrexate. It's now like pretty much gone. Like maybe it'd be like once every 6 months that I get a flare in my hand, so it's so much better. So it's kind of just been, and the biologic injections, the side effects profiles are, I think I found much nicer than the tablets. Oh, and I take hydroxychloroquine as well still.
Yeah, that's not that bad, but I find it just, if you taste it, it just tastes so terrible.
It tastes really bad.
Make sure you get like a good swig of water with it. Yeah. So I'm just going to read some more questions. So one from Lindsay: how did you cope with exams? Did you get extra time or rest breaks? I don't think this really applies to me because I was diagnosed after kind of having all my schooling and uni days.
Throughout school and university, I had rest breaks. I started off having extra time, and then actually I found that rest breaks and I was allowed to use a computer as well, which was obviously the most helpful because I just like wrote so slowly because my hands were so sore, and obviously that coupled with stress just made my hands even more sore. But both my school and my university were really good at providing extra support and the kind of time allowances. So
yeah. How about you, Ellie? At uni, were they quite good at kind of changing all of your I don't know, I guess adapting to you once you got diagnosed?
Yeah, so I was at Leeds University, and the design, because I did graphic design, and the design department were just great. So bearing in mind there were literally hundreds of design students, the office all knew me by name and face because I was there so often, like, please can I have more time? So I got extra time on essays, I got extra time in exams, and anything I wanted, that sounds really bad, doesn't it? Sounds like I was abusing this a little bit, but no, they were really good. They were really good. Like they made sure that all the time I took out of uni, for whether it be fatigue or hospital admissions, which I had a lot of during uni, I always reclaimed that time. And even my dissertation I submitted, I can't remember if it was weeks or months later than everyone else. So yeah, it didn't, I would say definitely for university, I'm not sure about high school, but definitely for university, the biggest thing was the socializing. It didn't hold me back at all academically.
That's really good to hear, actually. How about you, Malachi? I assume you get kind of...
Yeah, I have rest breaks in my exams that I didn't sit. But the mocks, and then I took my English language exam a year early, so I had rest breaks in that as well. But my school have been really supportive. And like Eleanor said, like the office, everyone knows me in the office because the amount of times I'd have to go and say, I'm not feeling great, I need to go home or whatever. But the school have been like amazing with me, offering, obviously some days are bad, and because in my eyes sometimes if I'm having a bad day, like sensitive to light and then fatigue and tiredness, So they'd offer me like a room, like a small room, like just out the way where I can just like lie down, maybe. Or if like lesson was too noisy or something like that, I could just go and work like in the library alongside maybe one of a friend. So I think my school really helped out with that, and then obviously give me the exam like help I needed as well, which I found really useful.
Okay, I'm just gonna read a comment we've got from Alice Peterson. She said, everyone is different, but for me it took years to really fully tell my friends, so this going back to kind of social life and friends, tell my friends how my RA impacted my life. I was always struggling to be normal, whatever normal is. All I can say is now, aged 46, I have lost a few people along the way, but I also have such close friends who are so understanding. In hindsight, I wish I'd been more open sooner, but it does take time, but the right people will get it. And in my experience, it makes friendships deepen. I think it does definitely make friendships deepen, because you have kind of more trust in them, and you kind of you have them to rely on. Yeah, thank you for your comment. We've got one more question from Victoria, and then I think we'll start wrapping up. She said, do you think your condition has made you more determined? You're also inspiring. Thank you. It's really nice to hear. For me, I think it has made me more determined, but it's taken a while for me to get to this place, because I struggled massively with my mental well-being, and I don't think I reached out for enough support for it. I kind of just learned along the way. But now, yes, it has made me more determined. Again, I really appreciate the good days and try and do as much as I can in the good days, without going overboard. So how about everyone else? Do you think your conditions made you more determined?
I think so. I think it gives you a kind of inner strength to really kind of carry on and know what you want to do. Like the other guys all saying, if there's something that you really want to achieve, I think it makes you realize that you really you need to do it. When I was younger, I think it made me really determined, because I didn't want to miss out on lots of things, and because I necessarily hadn't told everyone. For example, I really wanted to play rugby when I was like 13, because all my friends were, and obviously my doctor didn't necessarily advise playing contact rugby, but I didn't do it for a year to try and let my arthritis settle down. And then when I was 14, I started playing again till I was 18, because I wasn't going to let it stop me, because it was something that I really wanted to do. So I think it definitely did make me more determined / maybe slightly stubborn.
Yeah, I agree with that. I recently, a couple of years ago, started kind of exercising more and like weight training, because I think that kind of suited me a lot more, and again that ties with my mental well-being, but it kind of made me not care about who sees me in the gym, because I know I'm doing this for myself, to make my to make myself stronger, to support my joints, and then even with things like going for new opportunities, new job interviews, like even doing this, it's made me think like, it gives you, like you said, it's like a superpower. And Ellie, you've probably got like the best story for this, because you went for Miss Cheshire last year, was it? And you're competing again this year?
Yeah, so obviously, as a sort of like teenager, I was like, I suppose your standard teenager. I didn't really do an awful lot with my life. Lazy, watched a lot of Netflix, and then got ill for a few years, got into remission, and then since that it's just been all systems go. So obviously opened up my own business, which is still going years later, so fingers crossed it's all good. I went for Miss Cheshire last year, but they put me straight through to Miss England, so I did Miss England, got to the finals. I'm doing Miss Cheshire this year, and I've won a local Heroes Award as well, and that's just in like the past sort of couple of years since I've been in remission, and I wouldn't have done any of that without arthritis, like hands down I wouldn't. So If I had the choice of getting rid of arthritis, so I never had it, I wouldn't do it. I'm happy with how my life went, and I'm happy with the lessons that arthritis has taught me.
Has anyone else got anything to add, Malachi or Katrina?
Yeah, I mean, like not only does it make you like more determined, I guess it makes you feel better once you've got to like your finishing point. Like obviously you're determined to do something, and then once you've done that thing you want to do, it makes you feel better. Like you're thinking like I've managed to do this with what I'm going through as well, and I think that helps mentally. Like if you're thinking like I've done this, I'm here like now, and you're like just proud of where you've been, what you've done, and like where you are now. And I think, yeah, so obviously the determination is good to get you through, but the end point like just makes you feel even better, I think.
And Katrina, you've already kind of talked about how it's made you kind of push for, you know, for your doctorate. Is it a doctorate?
I don't know. Degree, just degree. Yeah, I think it's like it's human nature, isn't it? When like, not that there was nobody telling me like you can't do this, but you know when you like, if you even get that thought like maybe I can't, and you're like no I can. And I've always been like a bit of like a determined, like probably a bit of a type A personality, in that sense anyway. But I think sometimes you think, like Malachi was saying, like you look back and be like, I did this, like despite having RA, so now I can do even more. And yeah, I think I probably am just a little bit stubborn and still like, yeah, just don't very like determined to like, and it's even with like socializing, like no, I'm actually determined to like do this, or so it's just like it's the everyday things, I think. Yeah.
Hannah sent it in the comments saying, here's to being stubborn, you're all awesome. Thank you for that, that's really nice. And Janet says, thank you all so much for doing this and sharing your personal experiences so honestly. And Lisa says, I'm so glad that there is more support for young people now with RA. Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, that helps massively. Robbie says, you definitely become stronger mentally. This helps you cope with bad days, but enjoy better days. Definitely, yeah, thank you. Okay, so I think I'm going to wrap it up now. So thanks all for joining me to do this Facebook Live. I don't think I've ever done anything like this before, but hopefully it went well, and people that were watching got a lot out of it. Just a couple of things to go through before I end. So it's still RA Awareness Week. We've got our final Facebook Live session tomorrow with Tim Lawton, who is MP and co-chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Mindfulness. He'll talk about mindfulness and wellbeing at work, and that's tomorrow at 4 p.m. It's a slightly earlier time, but if you are busy, you can watch it back on Facebook, like with all of these. Another thing we've been promoting these all week, but they're finally available in the shop. So we've finally got the tote bags available. I don't know if you guys have seen this.
No.
It says keep your distance. And then our masks are back in stock as well. So yeah, they will be available on our shop. Hopefully Shivam will be posting links now. And then I was talking to you guys about this earlier, but I don't hopefully everyone's seen the We Are a Priority video by now. It is a really good campaign. It's the face of it is a young lady called Yolanda, and she's a singer. Actually, funnily enough, when I was first diagnosed, I went on YouTube and looked at videos of RA and how people live with it, and she was the first ones that I saw. So I remember her to this day.